Now the latest ITV News Meridian in the south.
Good evening, welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines here in the south. The search for Fatima, the mother missing for 6 weeks. Today her husband makes an emotional appeal.
I've lost without her. My children are lost as well. Please come home, Fatima, if you're listening.
Why are public places still failing disabled people? The Southampton charity that says enough's enough.
The golden age of ocean travel, celebrating 130 years of maritime memories from the passenger ships that sailed from the Solent.
And feast your eyes on this, the Easter sculpture that's good enough to eat. Good evening. 6 weeks ago, Fatima Muhammad Ali made her husband breakfast, left her house, and then just disappeared. There's been no contact from her since, and her family are desperately worried about what's happened to her.
The 52-year-old left the house on Park Drive Close in New Haven on February the 12th. She was then sighted on Avis Road, and later she's seen on CCTV at Denton Corner. But then the trail goes cold.
Today, her husband appealed for anyone with information to come forward. Here's Malcolm Shaw.
It's 6 agonising weeks since Muhammad Ali last saw his wife Fatima. The 12th of February started as a normal day at the couple's home in New Haven. Fatima rose early to say her prayers, then made her husband breakfast before he left for work. But when he came home, there was no sign of her. Muhammad says her disappearance is totally out of character and has left him and their 3 children distraught.
I'm just lost. I'm lost without her. My children are lost as well, especially my son. And I want to ask her to come home or contact the police, at least to let us know she's safe. And please come home, Fatima, if you're listening.
There was a sighting of Fatima around 8 o'clock in the morning here in Avis Road, a short distance from her home. She was caught on a CCTV camera at Denton Corner nearby, wearing a pale coat over traditional Indian clothes. She appeared to be walking in the direction of the town centre. Since then, nothing. Another baffling aspect of this case is that Fatima left home without her bag, money or keys, or it seems any other personal belongings. Police and volunteers from Sussex Search and Rescue have used dogs to comb the surrounding area, including the tide mills and the Ouse Valley Nature Reserve. The police helicopter has also been deployed.
We would like to ask all the public on that day, anybody might have seen her or anybody who might have noticed her, where she went. Did she go with somebody? Did somebody pick her up? Was there a taxi? Anybody, to help police and give them the lead, that they are looking for.
Fatima Muhammad Ali is 5'2" of slim build with long dark hair she wears in a ponytail. Anyone who thinks they've seen her is urged to call the police, quoting Operation Accelerate. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News, New Haven.
A Hampshire man's been jailed for 4 years after pleading guilty to a drink-drive crash which killed a teenage girl. Alexander McBride, who's 34 and from Hordle, crashed into a tree while twice over the legal limit last month. Rebecca Marchant, who was 15, was the front seat passenger and died at the scene. McBride's 2 children were passengers in the back.
A charity is calling on the government to act now to improve the lives of disabled people. Revitalise, which runs a holiday home in Netley near Southampton, says 6 years after the launch of the Equality Act, disabled people are still being denied access to many shops, tourist attractions and sporting venues. The charity's echoing a House of Lords report, which says the government's failing in its duty of care to the disabled.
You feel segregated in a way because all your friends have gone and you can't. It makes life a bit difficult. It makes you feel different. And we're not supposed to be different. We're all the same really, just bits don't work.
11 million people are disabled now. We've got an ageing population, that's growing. We're sort of all yet to be disabled, so we, as non-disabled people, should make sure that if in the event that we become disabled, that the services and the access is good so that we can enjoy all of our life and be part of society just like everybody else.
Now, hospital food has often received lots of tasteless comments.
Yes, menu choices for patients and for visitors has been a point of contention for many years. Remember, Southampton had a Burger King for many years.
But times are changing and the Royal Voluntary Service is leading the way in offering healthier options. Their first New Look Cafe is at the Royal Bournemouth Hospital, as Martin Dowse reports.
75 years ago, they began by helping people to shelter from air raids during the war. In more recent times, volunteers from the Royal Voluntary Service have been visible most often in hospital atriums or manning trolleys dishing out tea and snacks. Here at the Royal Bournemouth, they're still doing that, but it's all gone a bit skinny latte with a 21st century makeover. The RVS has pledged to renovate and update all of its 500 plus hospital cafes and shops across the UK after a survey of the lunchtime eating habits of NHS staff as well as hospital visitors showed a desire for more choice, especially healthier options. After all, these are places where well-being should be the first thing on the menu.
The Royal Voluntary Service here in Royal Bournemouth is our first pilot site for the new concept. We're having freshly made smoothies, wholesome soups, fresh salads, a high proportion of no added sugar soft drinks and fresh fruit being available. So we're really enhancing the range that is available.
Yes, we're doing very well with all our new menus. Well, we never had any hot food before, but now you can come and have toasties and quiches and all sorts of hot food, different varieties of hot drinks on offer. Yes, a lot different.
The profits from these hospital eateries will be ploughed back into funding the RVS's community services that support older people, such as Meals on Wheels. The makeover of all of their hospital cafes will be completed by March 2017. Martin Dowse, ITV News, Bournemouth.
Now, for more than a century, Southampton's welcomed the world's greatest ocean liners. Millions of people have passed through the docks to travel the world.
Now, a major new exhibition opens this weekend which celebrates the golden era of passenger ships. Our transport correspondent Mike Pearce has been to the Sea City Museum for a preview.
For 130 years, Southampton has played a vital role in passenger shipping.
Today she presents a magnificent spectacle, and all that is best in shipping again graces her quays.
From carrying immigrants to the New World to the so-called glory days of the 1920s to the 60s, it's been a vital part of the city. Now a new exhibition is being held to celebrate the achievements. There are models, posters, letters and artefacts. Many at the Sea City Museum are rarely seen.
We wanted to tell a really important part of Southampton's history. We have a very large collection of ocean liner memorabilia and items from the liners, and they're not always on display, so this is an opportunity for people to see things that are often just in store. We've got posters from different eras, lots of menus, furniture from some of the liners, both from before the Second World War, but also from the QE2, for instance.
The docks and the great liners have employed generations and remain vital to the local economy.
It's easy to forget that in the days before air travel, that was the way if you wanted to go to South Africa or New York or whatever, you went on a liner. I think it's very important to remember that how important it was to Southampton and how important Southampton was to the liners.
And the exhibition, called Port Out Southampton Home, runs at Sea City until June next year. Mike Pearce, ITV News, Southampton.
Fascinating stuff. You're watching ITV News in the Meridian region. Still to come this evening.
Not just a walk in the park, Sangeeta's been to find out more about the running revolution that's gathering pace right across the south. That's the last in our special series on obesity.
And for more on all of our stories, you know what to do. Go to our website, itv.com/Meridian. And if you have any views or news for us, we'd love to hear from you. 0808 10 10 095 is our telephone number.
Well, the ITV Evening News continues with the national and international news at 6:30. Here's Mary Nightingale.
The former Bosnian Serb leader Radovan Karadzic is found guilty of genocide. He's jailed for 40 years for war crimes, including the massacre of thousands of Muslim men and boys in Srebrenica in the 1990s. The Premier League footballer Adam Johnson is jailed for 6 years over sexual activity with a 15-year-old. And tributes to the Dutch master Johan Cruyff, who's died at the age of 68. Well, do join Mark Austen and me for that and more at 6:30.
A lorry displaying Hampshire's 100 most wanted criminals has been touring parts of the county today. The charity Crimestoppers wants anyone who may recognise any of the people to come forward. They're wanted for a range of crimes, from burglary to drugs and sexual assault.
We're trying to engage the public. Crimestoppers is a charity where you can give information on crime completely anonymously. We take information on a 0800 555 111 number, or we take it online. We are the eyes and the ears of the police a lot of the time, and there's a lot of information that we have that they don't, that would make actually solving crime a huge amount simpler.
Now, the final instalment of our week of reports looking at childhood obesity, and today the importance of teaching young people about the need for regular exercise.
Right across the region each week, children are doing just that by taking part in free fitness sessions known as park runs. Sangeeta put on her running shoes and joined one family, at least I think she did, from Southampton to find out how it works and what it's done for them.
3, 2, 1, go!
It's about having fun and keeping fit. And if you're 8-year-old Hannah Bloxage, it's about setting a world record.
How many park runs have you done?
This is the 160.
Wow, what do you love about running?
You get tired, but you just really want to go on and continue and see what time you got.
Welcome to Southampton Junior Park Run number 117.
Why would you encourage other parents to get up early on this cold Sunday morning to come out to an event like this?
Well, there's loads of people here. It's a fantastic opportunity. I mean, it's anything for 4 to 14-year-olds. So it's fun as well as, you know, great thing for them to do, keep them fit and healthy.
If you haven't got a barcode this morning, this policy across the whole of the UK, you won't get a result, okay?
The barcode means your 2-kilometre run is logged.
Well done, Hannah! Well done!
With park runs like this one in Southampton taking place across the world.
What's your message to anybody who is watching this and has never done a run like this before?
Well, have a go and see how you find it. You can run with a friend, you can run with your parent or adult, and it's really fun to do. It doesn't matter how fast or slow you are, you can still do it.
And Hannah, like you, they could be a world record breaker.
Yeah.
Hannah's sister Ella also takes part. She has a rare condition called Rett syndrome. The park run keeps her fit and mobile.
Yay! Well done! And I think you were really fast.
It's a fun event because my son here, Thomas, loves coming for a little run, and it's a good reason to get up on Sunday morning and have a good workout.
How has it helped his fitness?
It really did, because he's improved his time by about 25-30%, so he didn't used to do much sports, and now he just loves coming here for a run.
James, we are talking about tackling child obesity. Why does something like this help?
I think it helps primarily because it's available every week and it's free, and it's also very inclusive. You get children who run in under 8 minutes and children that take up to 45 minutes.
You enjoyed that? So should we do a high five? High five! Woo! 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 Brilliant!
As well as watching what we eat, the park run shows in the fight against obesity, every step is a step in the right direction.
Great stuff. Now, it's 200 years since Jane Austen published her novel Emma, the story of a privileged daughter who thinks herself a bit of a matchmaker.
Her meddling in other people's love lives didn't prove popular, but the book itself was, and went on to be translated into dozens of languages.
To celebrate the bicentenary, a new exhibition's just opened at Chawton House in Hampshire, curated by the University of Southampton. Rachel Hepworth went to have a look round.
Mr. Churchill, you couldn't praise her too highly for me, but...
Handsome, clever and rich, Emma Woodhouse has been dishing out advice for 200 years.
You should be very careful whom you choose as your friends.
Thanks in part to modern screen adaptations, Jane Austen is more popular than ever, and according to the new generation, still very relevant.
They're the same feelings that people have felt forever, and we still definitely feel them too, I think. I like it because it's old-fashioned, but it's also kind of modern.
But it's not all dances and happy endings. In Emma, Austen created a more complex character.
Well, she famously said that she was going to create a heroine who no one but herself would like. And she gets a lot of things wrong. She's very flawed. She's very human. And I think that makes her appealing.
And this new exhibition at Chawton House Library shows her international appeal. Straight away, Emma was published in America and translated into French. Not that Austen herself would have known.
She had no idea that her Emma was going to be hitting the Paris bookshelves. Funnily enough, it starts with a preface which says, "This is not a novel, it's a guide to the English character." So I think it's very amusing that someone in Paris would have been picking up this novel and say, "I'd like to know something about my neighbours across the channel."
Austen was a frequent visitor to this house, which was owned by her brother Edward Knight. She herself lived in more modest surroundings nearby, where she wrote much of her best-known work. The library now welcomes schools and gives tours of its archives, celebrating the work of early female writers, not all of whom were complimentary about Jane Austen.
So this is Charlotte Bronte's letter to her publisher. There's a real sort of anxiety here that Jane Austen might just be better than her. It's just a sort of wonderfully damning critique of a novelist that she spends 3 full pages talking about.
So much for sisterhood, but then Emma Woodhouse herself could be cruel too.
It was badly done, Emma. Badly done indeed.
But with all her flaws, she's an enduring heroine, and her creator's popularity shows no signs of waning.
This is the 400th year of Shakespeare's death, of course, and there's no sense that his legacy is ever going to go anywhere. I would say very strongly that the same applies to Jane Austen.
Rachel Hepworth, ITV News in Chawton.
Bit of sports news for you. No matches for our Premier League or Championship teams this weekend because of the international break. England are playing Germany on Saturday, of course. Plenty of action in Leagues 1 and 2, though. Tomorrow, Swindon host Wigan. That's a late kick-off. And the League 2 promotion push continues with Oxford at home to Stevenage and Portsmouth at home to Notts County. Crawley, meanwhile, are away at York City.
One headline from Hampshire Cricket Club today. The county have announced the signing of West Indian all-rounder Darren Sammy for this year's T20 Blast. And the annual Oxford-Cambridge boat race takes place on the Thames Tideway on Sunday. Last year, Oxford won both the men's and the women's races. And that was the first time the women's race has been staged on the same day and the same stretch of river as the men's. This year, the male Dark Blues are hoping to secure a 4th successive win.
Now, how about this for an Easter feast? A chocolate artist from Brighton has created this amazing sculpture out of the sweet treat.
Yes, the lunch table set for 4 people, all made from chocolate, as tables and chairs, plates, cutlery, vegetables and even a roast leg of lamb. But this one will be fine for vegetarians.
It took a team of 3 people 4 months to build. Believe it or not, they used 20 moulds and 60 kilos of chocolate. There are even hot cross buns in there too. I suspect it won't take quite so long for it to be eaten.
It was difficult, yeah, lots of stages, lots of components went into creating the table of this chocolate feast. Lots of mould making and sculpting, dipping, melting a lot of chocolate and a little bit tasting along the way just to make sure it all was up to standard.
What a job. Now, this Sunday, not only is it Easter, but the clocks also go forward. Yes, we lose an hour in bed, but we more than make up for it with lighter evenings at last.
So Simon explained it's the start of British summertime, even though it's only just the start of spring.
Yeah, that was last week. This is British summertime. Nothing really to do with the seasonal situation. This is the annual clock change to take us into daylight saving time. So to get you in the mood for a faffy moment with your central heating boiler timer, I've been to visit one of the tallest clocks in the region. Southampton's iconic Civic Centre clock tower was built in 1933 and is an impressive 156 feet high. So as you can imagine, to get to the top, you have to go up rather a lot of stairs. And then some more. And even more. And just a few more, hopefully. Oh no, my mistake. There appear to be yet more. At last. Andy, am I glad to see you?
Hello.
Tell me, how many steps have I just done?
215.
Please tell me there's a lift on the way down.
I wish I could.
Oh. So why did they decide to put a clock here?
Well, this is an important spot because the idea was that everyone in town should be able to see the top of the clock tower. So they chose this spot. They tethered a balloon before they built it up to the height of the clock tower. And then the main man, a man called Sidney Kimber, drove round the town making sure he could see the top of the balloon, and that's why they chose to put it here.
So no other buildings since have been any higher?
Not any higher. There are taller buildings here in Southampton, but this is the highest point, so you shouldn't ever see anywhere higher than this. So we've got the original timing mechanism here from Gillett and Johnston, who are still servicing our clock, still servicing our bells as well.
Should we be a bit worried though that I make it just gone 4 and it says midnight?
It is worrying, I don't quite understand.
Quick, check from the outside.
Yeah.
For many of us it's a bit of a faff just changing the time on our ovens when we have the clock changed twice a year. How hard is it doing a clock like this?
This clock is not too difficult. It happens automatically nowadays. So we don't have to do anything. I don't have to go in there and wind the clock or anything like that. It happens entirely automatically.
So from the outside, do you see the hands go round double quick?
I think you must do. I've not been here at 1 a.m. on a Sunday morning, I've got to admit, but I imagine at some point you must do, mustn't you?
Right, well, let's make a date. You and I, we're outside watching this Sunday.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I suspect we won't really be there.
I bet you
You'll be
won't.
pleased to know. But do you want to know the history of daylight saving time?
Yeah.
Originally proposed by a chap from Surrey called William Willett in 1907, not taken seriously. His thought was 20 minutes for the first 4 Sundays in March, and then back again 20 minutes for the 4 in October. Yeah, highly complicated. Went to Parliament in 1908, but was blown out because it would keep the children up late and affect the farmers. And then it was in World War I in Germany where they adopted it for the first time, because obviously it's good for saving energy, and we thought, hang on, that's a great idea, so we did it a week later, 100 years ago, so it's a century of daylight saving this year.
Fascinating stuff, bet you didn't know that. Let's find out what the weather has in store for us, Simon.
That's us driving on, us driving off in France, and us outside a chateau.
Driving to Europe. Eurotunnel Le Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Well, here's a timely treat from John Batt in Brighton. That's a cloud shaped like the Easter Bunny. I can see it. As far as the Easter weather goes, by the way, slightly tricky conditions tonight. So we've got cloud, we've got outbreaks of rain. Some of the rain likely to be heavy, some of it light and patchy, but the whole lot shifting eastwards. So through the early hours, we'll see the drier weather develop from the west. Not a cold night, 5 or 6 the overnight low, and the cloud will break up very early on tomorrow morning. So lots of blue sky for much of Good Friday. Yes, there'll be some fair weather cloud as the day goes on, but temperatures 12 degrees. That's 54 in Fahrenheit with a light wind. Feeling quite nice and pleasant if you're doing something outdoorsy. As for your high tide times, you can see in Portsmouth 1:45 in the morning, 12:15 in the afternoon, and then Saturday, that's when things turn tricky. Very strong gusty winds, gale force gusts along the coast. Even inland we could see gusts of around 30-40 miles an hour, and some heavy rain too. So a Met Office early warning for that wind. As far as Sunday goes, there'll be some bright spells, but also some blustery showers with an unsettled Easter Monday too.
Eurotunnel Le Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Now, And before we go, in the week which has seen the second major terrorist attack on a European city in just a matter of months, the Archbishop of Canterbury has spoken to ITV Meridian about how we can begin to react to such atrocities.
Our reporter Sarah Saunders has also talked to him about family life in a technological age and how isolation is one of the greatest enemies we face. Here's his Easter message.
Easter, for me, is the highlight of the year. And I love Christmas, and Christmas is great fun. But Easter somehow, for me personally, goes much deeper. I think it's that sense of hope that at the end of all things, God is in charge. God defeats death. God defeats all that human evil can do. And in this week, that seems particularly relevant to remember after the attacks we've seen and the suffering that we know of. As Christians, we pray. We pray above all for victims, for the people of Belgium. We pray for those caught up in any way in this. And we pray for a future in which the genuine truth of a God who is merciful, who is loving, whose Son died on the cross to bring forgiveness and reconciliation overwhelms completely, as it does on Easter, overwhelms completely the forces of death, of destruction, of human lust, desire for power, anger, bitterness.
It's a hard subject to move on from, but I want to ask you about young people, which is perhaps one of the best ways to do so. In the past few decades, we've seen radical technological advances, the benefits of which are clear, but I just wondered if you think there's any balance to be had between the technological and the spiritual.
Oh, they're harmonious. I mean, do we really want to go back to pre-technology? I don't think so. But do we want to let it master us? Absolutely not. So we have to be intelligent about it. I mean, having had the great blessing of a large family of our own, and now with grandchildren, what they want above all is human contact, relationship, and that's what each human being needs to grow up with. The sense that they're loved, that they're valued, that they can value and love others. That's at the very heart of what we do. One of the greatest enemies we face in our own society is isolation. It's partly a question of looking out for each other, but it's partly a question of looking for the place in which we can build community. The sense of welcoming neighbours, of being in touch with those around us, of giving of time.
Thank you so much, and as we finish, I wonder if our thoughts return to the events that are happening in Europe at the moment.
For me, Easter is the moment of hope. Whatever I've seen, whatever I know, at Easter we see the triumph, the victory of God over all that brings us down. And I'm filled with hope and filled with joy because God triumphs.
And we wish you all a very happy Easter. And in just a moment, the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale and Mark Austen.
Yes, but from all of us here, thank you very much indeed for watching and have a great weekend.
Good night.